The arrogant invasion. The Caldari sovereignty had ruled the stars for nearly 15,000 years. Their empire spanned across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy, encompassing over 8,000 star systems and subjugating more than 200 sentient species. Their technological prowess was unmatched. Massive warships capable of reducing planets to molten slag with a single volley, energy shields that could withstand supernova, and weapons that could tear holes in the fabric of spacetime itself. The Caldari believed themselves to be the undisputed masters of the cosmos, the inheritors of the stars, and the final arbiters of which species deserved to exist. Earth was nothing to them. A small blue-green planet orbiting an unremarkable yellow star in the unfashionable outskirts of the Orion Arm. When humanity's first interstellar transmissions reached Caldari sensors, their xenobiologists classified humans as a pre-ascendant species with minimal technological potential. The Caldari High Council didn't even bother to schedule a first contact mission. Humans were deemed unworthy of their attention. But humans, as they had done throughout their turbulent history, refused to remain insignificant. Within just 2 centuries after discovering radio, humanity achieved what had taken the Caldari a millennium: functional faster than light travel. The Alcubierre-Martinez drive wasn't elegant by Caldari standards. It was brutish, inefficient, and dangerous. But it worked, and suddenly humans were spreading to the stars with alarming speed. Grand Sovereign Zax Corian of the Caldari finally took notice when human colony ships appeared in 7 star systems simultaneously. This wasn't supposed to happen. Primitive species like humans were supposed to expand cautiously, 1 planet at a time, making them easy to contain or eliminate. Instead, humanity had seemingly mastered mass parallel colonization. This is unexpected, Zax Corian admitted to his inner council. Perhaps we have underestimated these creatures. First Admiral Thrax, the sovereignty's most decorated military commander, scoffed. They are nothing, Sovereign. Their ships are primitive metal constructs. Their weapons are basic fusion devices. Their shields barely deflect micrometeorites. 1 battle group from our eternal fleet could erase their entire civilization. Nevertheless, the Sovereign replied, unexpected behavior requires deliberate response. Send an emissary. Inform them of their place in our cosmos. They will submit or be reduced to ash. The Caldari emissary arrived at Earth 3 months later aboard a dreadnought that dwarfed humanity's largest space station. Ambassador Krulvorek was a typical Caldari aristocrat, tall, reptilian, with iridescent scales and piercing yellow eyes that seemed to look through humans rather than at them. His message to the United Earth government was blunt. The Caldari sovereignty acknowledges your species' unexpected technological advancement. Your reward is the opportunity to serve. Submit to Caldari rule. Provide tribute of resources and warriors. In exchange, you will receive protection and guidance. Refusal means extinction. You have 30 Earth days to comply. The emissary departed, leaving humans to their choice. Though to the Caldari, there was no choice at all. Every species submitted when faced with Caldari might. It was simply the natural order of things. What the Caldari failed to understand was that humanity's history had forged a unique psychology. Thousands of years of warfare, revolution, and resistance against tyranny had created a species that reacted to threats not with submission, but with defiance and innovation. While the politicians publicly deliberated, Earth's military and scientific communities worked feverishly. When the 30 days elapsed, humanity's response came not from politicians, but from Admiral Helena Chen, Supreme Commander of Earth Defense Forces. Her message was broadcast on all frequencies the Caldari monitored. To the Caldari sovereignty, humanity acknowledges your ultimatum. Our response is as follows. We will not submit. We will not provide tribute. We will not accept subjugation in any form. Earth and her colonies stand free. We do not seek conflict, but neither will we bow to threats. If you wish peace, we offer open hands. If you wish war, we promise only this. You will regret it. In the Keldari Imperial Palace on their homeworld Keldar Prime, the message caused more amusement than alarm. First Admiral Thrax particularly found it entertaining. They threaten us, the conquerors of 1,000 worlds, the destroyers of the Nyx Confederation and the Galician Alliance. This is beyond merely impudent, it's delusional. Grand Sovereign Zaxkorian nodded sagely. It is unfortunate. I had hoped they might prove useful servants. Now they must become an example. Thrax, assemble the 7th battle sphere. Show these humans the cost of defiance. What the Keldari couldn't know, was that humanity had spent those 30 days in a frenzy of preparation. What appeared to be chaos was actually a perfectly executed plan that had been developed for decades. Project SHIELD, Strategic Human Initiative for Extraterrestrial Lifeform Defense, had been humanity's insurance policy against hostile first contact since the early days of FTL development. Factories across Earth and her colonies switched to war production. Civilian ships were quickly retrofitted with military hardware that had been designed to be installed rapidly in exactly this scenario. And most importantly, technologies that had been developed in secret were finally deployed. The Keldari 7th battle sphere emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system exactly 48 days after the human refusal. It was an awe-inspiring force. 57 capital ships, 200 cruisers, and over 1,000 support vessels. At their center was the inevitable Dominion, Thrax's personal flagship and the most powerful warship in the known galaxy. Its main cannon had once split a moon in half. Admiral Thrax surveyed the system with disdain. Humans had established defenses, orbital platforms around Earth, a small fleet of warships, and what appeared to be minefields. Pathetic, primitive measures that wouldn't even slow his forces. Begin the attack, Thrax ordered casually. Standard extinction protocol. Target their largest population centers first. The Keldari fleet moved forward with the absolute confidence of predators who had never known defeat. Their sensors detected no significant threat. There were only the expected human defenses, which their intelligence suggested were woefully inadequate. "Sir," a sensor officer called out suddenly, "I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the human vessels." "Irrelevant," Thrax dismissed. "Begin the bombardment." The first wave of Keldari ships closed to firing range of Earth's orbital defenses, weapons powering up for the opening salvo that would begin humanity's extinction. That's when the impossible happened. The supposedly primitive human ships suddenly changed. Sections of hull plating shifted, revealing weapon systems unlike anything the Keldari had ever encountered. Before Thrax could process what he was seeing, the human vessels opened fire. Beams of concentrated particles, not the crude lasers the Keldari expected, lanced out from the human ships. They didn't impact the Keldari shields as expected. They passed through them, as if they weren't even there, striking hulls directly. Keldari vessels began to rupture and explode. "Impossible," Thrax roared. "Their technology is centuries behind ours." "Our shields." "Sir," his second-in-command interrupted, genuine fear in his voice for the first time in his career. "They're using phase-shifted particle beams. Our shields aren't calibrated to stop them." The human counterattack intensified. What the Keldari had dismissed as simple minefields revealed themselves to be autonomous combat drones, swarming toward the Keldari ships by the thousands. They were small enough to slip through the gaps in Keldari shields designed to allow vessels to fire their own weapons, and each carried a payload powerful enough to cripple a cruiser. On the bridge of the inevitable Dominion, chaos reigned. Reports of critical damage flooded in from across the fleet. Nearly 30% of their forces had been destroyed in the opening minutes of the battle. "Full retreat," Thrax ordered, his confident demeanor shattered. "All ships, emergency hyperspace jump." But the humans had anticipated this as well. As the Keldari ships attempted to flee, they discovered that their hyperspace engines were being disrupted by a field emanating from Earth's moon. What the Keldari had thought was a natural satellite had been partially hollowed out, and converted into a massive hyperspace interdiction facility. The Caldari were trapped. For the first time in their 15,000-year history of conquest, they faced an enemy who had not only refused to submit but had outmaneuvered them completely. As First Admiral Thrax watched his mighty fleet being systematically dismantled by what should have been a primitive, doomed species, a new emotion crept into his consciousness. Fear. Not for his fleet, not for his empire, but for what would happen when humans decided to take the fight beyond Earth. The battle for Sol had only just begun, and already, the Caldari were losing. Badly. Humanity unleashed. Admiral Helena Chen watched the battle unfold from the CIC of the EDF Indomitable, Earth's newest and most advanced warship. Unlike the ostentatious Caldari vessels with their gleaming hulls and intimidating silhouettes, the Indomitable looked almost mundane. A utilitarian design that prioritized function over form. But appearances, as the Caldari were learning, could be deceiving. Theta formation, Chen ordered calmly. Execute BLECKOUT protocol. Her fleet responded with practiced precision. The human ships, which had been fighting in a seemingly defensive posture, suddenly accelerated to speeds the Caldari had thought impossible for primitive human technology. They swarmed around the larger Caldari vessels like wolves around wounded elk. On the bridge of the inevitable Dominion, First Admiral Thrax was desperately trying to regain control of the situation. 3 of his dreadnoughts had already been destroyed, and the rest of his fleet was in disarray. How is this possible? He demanded of his science officer. Their technology was assessed as pre-interstellar just 2 centuries ago. I don't know, Admiral, the science officer admitted, his scales pale with stress. They appear to be using technologies we've never encountered before. Their energy signatures don't match anything in our database. The truth, which the Caldari were only beginning to comprehend, was that humanity had been playing a long game. After detecting alien radio signals nearly a century earlier, Earth's governments had made a collective decision that would shape human destiny. They would hide their true technological capabilities. Every transmission that left Earth was carefully crafted to present an image of a species less advanced than they actually were. The ships that the Caldari had observed were deliberately designed to appear less sophisticated. Even human colonies were built to look more primitive from orbit than they actually were. Meanwhile, in secret facilities across Earth and deep inside the asteroid belt, human scientists had been developing technologies specifically designed to counter the types of advanced systems they had detected from various alien civilizations. Sir, Thrax's tactical officer interrupted his thoughts. The humans are deploying some kind of... I don't know what these are. The displays showed thousands of small objects emerging from concealed launchers on Earth's moon. They were accelerating toward the Caldari fleet at velocities that defied conventional physics. Quantum torpedoes, Admiral Chen explained to her officers, though the Caldari couldn't hear her. They exist partially outside normal spacetime until impact. No known shielding can stop them because they're not fully present until the moment of detonation. The weapons struck the Caldari fleet with devastating effect. Shields designed to withstand the energy of exploding suns offered no protection against munitions that bypassed conventional space altogether. Capital ships began to break apart, their mighty hulls splitting like paper. Thrax had never known defeat, had never even contemplated it. Now, as he watched his mighty battle sphere disintegrate around him, he struggled to process what was happening. All power to engines, he ordered. We need to break through their interdiction field. The inevitable Dominion, along with its few remaining escort ships, surged toward the edge of the Sol system, throwing all available power into their drives. It was a desperate gambit, but Thrax knew they needed to escape, not just to save themselves, but to warn the sovereignty of the threat humanity represented. Admiral Chen anticipated this move as well. They're making a run for it, she noted. Execute CHECK-98. From behind Mars emerged a second human fleet, smaller than the first but positioned perfectly to intercept the fleeing Caldari ships. At their center was the EDF Prometheus, sister ship to the Indomitable, and just as lethal. This fleet carried humanity's final surprise, the Hawking Drive. Unlike conventional FTL systems that pushed ships through spacetime, the Hawking Drive created localized wormholes. The human vessels blinked in and out of existence, appearing directly alongside Caldari ships, firing at point-blank range, then vanishing before the Caldari could respond. It was not simply combat, it was slaughter. The remaining Caldari vessels, including the once mighty Inevitable Dominion, found themselves surrounded, outmaneuvered, and outgunned by an enemy they had dismissed as hardly worth their notice. On the Inevitable Dominion's bridge, systems were failing. Life support was critical. The mighty warship that had participated in the destruction of dozens of civilizations was now itself on the brink of annihilation. "Admiral," one of the few remaining officers reported, "we're being hailed by the humans." Thrax, his pride in ruins along with his fleet, nodded grimly. The holographic display activated, showing Admiral Helena Chen's face. She was remarkably calm for someone in the midst of a decisive battle. "First Admiral Thrax," she said, her voice level. "Your fleet is destroyed. Your ship is crippled. You have two options: surrender or be destroyed." Thrax's inner eyelids flickered in surprise. "You would show mercy after we threatened your extinction." Chen's expression didn't change. "Mercy isn't the word I would use. We want information about your empire, its weaknesses, its hierarchy. In exchange, you and your surviving crew will be permitted to live as prisoners of war with humane treatment." The Caldari admiral looked around at his ruined bridge, at the displays showing the remnants of his once mighty fleet now reduced to scattered debris. In 15,000 years, no Caldari admiral had ever surrendered. It was unthinkable. But then, in 15,000 years, no Caldari force had ever faced an enemy like humanity. "I accept your terms," Thrax said finally, the words bitter in his mouth. Within hours, the Battle of Sol was over. Of the mighty Caldari 7th battlesphere, only 11 ships remained intact, all of them captured by human forces. The system was littered with the debris of Caldari vessels, once the pride of an empire, now space junk orbiting a world they had sought to conquer. In the aftermath, humanity wasted no time. Using data obtained from captured Caldari ships and the interrogation of Thrax and his officers, Earth launched Operation Vanguard. 100 stealth ships, equipped with the most advanced human technology, departed for key systems throughout the Caldari sovereignty. Their mission was not conquest. Humanity had no desire to rule others as the Caldari had. Instead, they would establish contact with the subjugated species of the sovereignty, offering them technology, knowledge, and something they hadn't known in millennia: hope. 6 months after the Battle of Sol, the Caldari sovereignty began to fracture. Rebellions erupted across dozens of worlds. Subject species, armed with human technology specifically designed to counter Caldari defenses, rose up against their oppressors. And wherever Caldari forces gathered to crush these rebellions, human ships would appear, delivering precision strikes before vanishing again. Grand Sovereign Zax Corden, who had ruled the sovereignty for 7 centuries, found himself facing the unthinkable, the end of Caldari dominance. In a desperate bid to preserve what remained of his empire, he sent a delegation to Earth with an offer of peace. The human response was delivered by Admiral Chen herself. "The Caldari sovereignty as it exists today is finished. Your empire was built on subjugation and cruelty. We will not allow it to continue. However, we do not seek the extinction of your species. The Caldari homeworld and its immediate colonies will remain yours, provided you renounce all claims to other systems and agree to strict limitations on your military capabilities." It was, by any measure, a humiliating capitulation for a species that had dominated the galaxy for 15 millennia. But faced with the alternative, a war they now knew they could not win, the Caldari accepted. As the news spread throughout the galaxy, a new era began. Species that had known only oppression for thousands of years looked to the stars with renewed hope. And at diplomatic gatherings across the galaxy, a new phrase entered the lexicon of interstellar relations. Remember, Sol. It was both a warning and a promise, a reminder of what happened when a seemingly insignificant species was pushed too far, and a pledge that such arrogance would never again go unchallenged. Humanity, for its part, had no interest in becoming the new Kildare. Having witnessed the corrupting influence of unchecked power, Earth established the Stellar Concordat, an alliance of free worlds united by shared principles rather than force. Admiral Chen, the architect of humanity's victory, became its first Director General. Under her leadership, the Concordat began dismantling the weapons of war that had saved humanity and building tools of peace and cooperation instead. The same brilliance that had created quantum torpedoes now created medical technologies that extended lifespans across 100 worlds. The engineers who had designed stealth systems now designed habitats that could transform hostile planets into gardens. First Admiral Thrax, still a prisoner on Earth, was permitted to observe this transformation. At first, he viewed it as weakness, evidence that humans lacked the resolve to maintain their dominance. But as years passed, he began to understand. "You could have replaced us," he said to Chen during one of her periodic visits to his comfortable but secure residence. "You could have become the new masters of the galaxy. Why didn't you?" Chen's answer was simple. "Because that's exactly what you would have done, and we are not you." As Thrax contemplated this, he gazed out at the stars. The same stars that had once belonged to the Kildare, now shared among hundreds of free species. For the first time in his long life, he wondered if perhaps the Kildare had misunderstood the true nature of power all along. In the void where the mighty seventh battle sphere had met its end, a memorial now orbited Earth's sun. It contained debris from both human and Kildare ships, preserved as a reminder of what had been lost and what had been gained. Inscribed upon it in dozens of languages was a simple message. They came as conquerors. They left as debris. Let all who look upon this remember. The measure of a civilization is not its capacity for violence, but its commitment to justice. The galaxy would remember, and it would never be the same again.